Now, get into the current events. Y'all know what it is. First and foremost, I want to say if y'all have not had a chance to check out this project right here, let me show you. If y'all have not had a chance to check out this project right here, you got to go get it. The Nas and the DJ Premier album. Yo, now it's two things about the album, right? One, I always say, Nas to me doesn't always pick the best beats, right? Like some people, they pick great beats, like, Rick Ross would be an example. I feel like he got a great ear for picking beats that he want to spit to. Since, Nas, um, I don't know, I think the production on Illmatic is not a song that I would didn't really like the track. But like over the years, sometimes Nas pick tracks that my ear isn't really loving. And when it comes to Premier, some of his beats, um, I don't love them all the time. You know what I'm saying? Because of his style of production. They don't be let me don't say I don't love them. They're not singles, right? He always do stuff that will be album cuts, right? But this album, my first play listening to it, I've been listening to it for since Saturday. So for 3 days, I've been listening to Nas album straight this for Saturday. And when I listen to your joint straight and they don't get kicked to the side immediately, then it's a great album, right? And Nas album, I have been able to listen to it for 3 days straight without skipping a song, which is saying a hell of a lot when it come to, you know, Nas and Primo together on the whole album, right? And when I first listened to it the first time, I'm like, I'm always listening to the song that I feel like is going to be the single, which is the hottest song, due to the production, due to the concept, um, due to what I think the masses is going to click to, right? Like when Cardi B album dropped, if you go look at it if first day it came out and I listened to it, I posted the song Magnet, right? And Magnet is the one outside of Hello that everybody really rocks with. Um, so, has she been dropping singles? I'm sure Magnet would have definitely been one. Um, so I got that ear, right? For Nas album is a song called what is it? Bou is it bouquet? Like a bouquet of flowers, right? I think that is if there was a single on that album, uh, a bouquet is what I think would probably be the the hottest or the best song to go with a single for a single. Now watch what I say. You're gonna hear everybody playing that one and talking about that one. Bouquet is like it's like a ode to the female rappers. But the track is fire. What Nas is saying is fire. And I fell in love with that song the first time I heard it. Actually, that one I repeated it before I got on to the next song on the first listen. And then, as I've been listening to the album, constantly on repeat, I'm waiting for that song. Like, you know what I'm saying? I really like Bouquet, right? Um, I want to take this time, and I know a lot of people may feel a way about what I'm saying, right? But I'm gonna move Nas. Nas always been in my top 5, right? But Nas has just moved up into top 5 dead or alive at number 1, right? You know how they say Biggie, Jay-Z, or Nas? Nah, it's Nas, Biggie, and possibly Jay-Z, right? If you was to say who's the best MC, Biggie, Jay-Z, or Nas, that line needs to be scrapped and it needs to be Nas first, right? I'm gonna right now in my 50 years of hip hop, living it, right? Well, I've been around before hip hop started. So um, but being on this earth, you know, since hip hop was created, and after hearing all the rappers that came into hip hop, um, for a long time, I would give LL as being the GOAT, the greatest of all time, right? And LL is still a GOAT, right? But and to me, Biggie is still a GOAT. But you know, I got to take in consideration that Big didn't get a chance to, you know, withstand the test of time to see how his career would have been. And I'm sure had he still been here with us now, he would have advanced and he probably would still be making classic music because his creativity, his style, his flow, his voice, his wittiness, his metaphors, his punchlines would have carried him over, right? But as we can see, like Jay Z, some dudes get burnt out, you know, and they not consistent, you know. Now, Nas, I'm going to have to move to the number one greatest of all time. Like, I love LL Cool J, and LL, you know, he started in the 80s. You know, he's still around today. He even dropped a album, I think, last year, if it wasn't earlier this year. But the album that LL put out called Force um, wasn't his greatest body of work. I didn't really like the songs conceptually. I didn't really like the production. It was just it was kind of weird, you know, and I gave it a chance, right? But I would always put LL over Nas because LL started in the 80s and, you know, was able to maintain up into the 90s to the 2000s to the 2010s, you know, even up to the 2020s, right? But however, Nas has been able to continuously put out work, and I think his career has, as an artist, he might have superseded, in my opinion, superseded LL at this point with how many albums he's had and how long he's been going. Because you know, L took breaks. He done movies. He done TV shows, whether in the house, on the movie side, in too deep, um, all types of movies. L's done. So he kind of went off into the movie thing. Nas, he dabbled with the movie thing, you know, but he didn't have a successful career in the movies like LL, right? So they both ventured off into film and television or whatever, right? Rakim being a GOAT. Nobody still has done what Rakim was able to do, creatively. Uh his intelligence, his able to be witty and spit knowledge without even cursing once. Even as a grown man, he wasn't cursing. Still don't curse to this day in his music. He's still a great to me. I still hold him in high regard. I still hold Slick Rick in high regard from they, early body of work. But Jay-Z, even though uh I criticize Jay-Z for using a lot of Biggie's lyrics and stealing other people's songs and concepts and flows. Jay is still one of the greats. But however, it's almost been 10 years since we got a solo album from Jay. And the 10 years that we haven't got a solo album from Jay, Nas gave us anywhere from maybe 7 to 10 albums since then. Since the pandemic, Nas has given us at least 7 albums and got a Grammy. And I think that he should be nominated for a Grammy for this joint. If the window ain't closed for the 2026 Grammys, he should definitely be nominated for the 2027 for this album. Because I'm telling you, this is a great body of work. And even if you're not uh crazy about the production as it being like a bunch of radios produced singles, the content, what he's talking about, the concepts, you know, the stuff that you could visualize, and he take you back and make you reminisce on your own life with this album, as well as it is well-rounded hip hop culture. You know what I'm saying? And I really don't want to get into too much because I want y'all to go listen to it for yourself. And I feel like it's a movie. So if I talk about it too much, I might give some spoilers. And I don't want to spoil it because it's one of those type of projects that if I tell you too much about it, then you're going to be expecting it when I think that you should go and listen to it and listen to it as you watching a movie and hear it or see it for the first time and stuff, you know. But the bouquet, that song, like it's going to touch you. Yeah, especially if you like female MCs. And I'm sure most female rappers that heard that song fell in love with it immediately, just like I did, right? So being that, and then for me, like I always said, people say hip hop is a young man's game. It's not a young man's game. Hip hop, like rock, like R&B, is a soundtrack to your life, right? So if hip hop ended 20 years ago, you know, because it was a young man's game, or if I stopped listening to it at a certain age, then I can't, I wouldn't be able to have memories at certain parts of my life connected to hip hop. Like this album here, when I'm 70, I'm gonna be thinking about when I was 50 and Bouquet song came out. You know, uh the New York State of Mind Part 3, My Third Childhood, you know, like for Nas, I feel like this is like chapters. This album is like another chapter and his life is like his journal. I feel like this album here feels like a journal to King's Disease. Like King's Disease to me, the first one was like a journal, you know. And when you listen to it, like if you've been a Nas fan from day one, or if you in your 50s or your late 40s or in your 40s and you've been listening to Nas, even if you're in your 30s and you've been listening to Nas, you're gonna hear chapters in your life, whatever you was going through on this album. Um, and it's gonna make you reminisce on a lot. And I'm telling you, it's a fantastic body of work overall. You know, shout out to Premier because he made it a little easy for Nas on this album as far as hooks, where his signature scratching and cutting in, certain samples and words. So, Nas ain't have to think too much on the hooks because a lot of the hooks are done by Premier as far as him, scratching and, blending in um, samples of other people's voices and lyrics, during the hooks, which, is, if you like Premier, it's a great addition to the album as an instrument, you know. He got a joint with AZ, and when him and AZ get together, they never disappoint. I think AZ may be the only feature on there. I think AZ might be the only feature on there, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but him and AZ got a joint, and the growth of him and AZ, like they not talking about what they talked about on Life is a B. Um, they not even talking about, you know, uh, what they talked about on King's Disease. I can't think of the name of the album. I mean the song right now with him, Cormega, Foxy, and AZ. But like it's far, far from the immature. Like, I love the Pusha T and Malice album, the Clips album. Um, Let God sort them out. On there, they still talking selling drugs and moving coke and all that stuff. And I still got an ear for that as far as entertainment goes. But Nas album, you know, if he mentions that or mention guns or whatever, it's in a reminiscing space. It ain't, yo, I'm still busting my gun, I'm still carrying my gun, like Pusha T and them still talking like they moving coke and stuff, which I hope they not. Right. I would hate to see these niggas go to jail as grown ass men finally get caught. Right. So the other thing about Nas album is he's educating you on cryptocurrency. Um, he's letting you know stuff that he invested in and where he's moving on. And this is what I'm upset with Jay-Z about, right? As a fan of Jay-Z, the artist. Sean Carter, I'm not a big fan of. But Jay-Z, the artist, I love, right? And my disappointment in Jay-Z is that he's not doing what Nas is doing, right? Nas, Jay has an abundance of knowledge of moving through the industry and doing different things in the industry and seeing different things in the industry that I personally feel like he could share with his music to educate the people that were fans of his or are fans of his, you know, with his growth in the business, right? Because you see so many niggas still topping Jay off. Uh, Jay's a GOAT. Jay, he's a billionaire, this, that, and other. But he's not sharing his jewels anymore via his music as far as how he obtained certain accomplishments in the music industry and how he dodged certain situations. Nas, on the other hand, is doing that. You know what I'm saying? If you listen to his last 5 albums, he did 3 King's Disease, he did 3 Magics. This one is the 7th album, right? In the last 5 years, this is his 7th album, right? You hear the growth in Nas music. You hear him educating you on, the do's and don'ts. You know, you hear him educating you on, relationships. Um, and if he ain't educating you, as in teaching, if you smart enough, you're learning from his mistakes and you're learning from his successes, right? So that's where I got a problem with Jay-Z, right? Because as a fan, you know, even, LL and his music was giving you those same type of jewels that Nas was, right? I just didn't like his overall production and um the song structure, but he was giving some knowledge. And I feel like that's what a lot of us in hip hop need is the people that we look at, we admire, we grow with, share some type of intellect with their audience, because